Hi there, Python programmers, and welcome back to Brad Codes. Today we have another fun-filled lesson talking about conditionals or if-else statements, and we'll throw in an ELIF as well. Basically, this allows us to make choices of our code. Based on a certain condition, we can choose to execute code or not execute code. Really allows us to start doing a lot more logic. So let's go ahead, jump in, and write a function with some conditionals. I'm going to call this function breakfast. It'll be a fun little function that is going to take in a food as a string, and then we're basically going to judge our choices for breakfast. Always a good idea to quickly throw in a doc string. Again, it's like a comment, but even better because it also builds your help menu. That's a string breakfast food. And judges your choices. I like that. Cool. All right, so let's start with our first conditional, an if block. If food, and then we want to check if it's equal to, and I'm going to go with waffles, because that is one of my favorite breakfast foods. We could return these values and print the return, or we could just print them right here. Again, what we want to see is that we are making choices. So let's just go ahead and print. I'm going to use a nice F string here. So again, we can just interpolate that food value as well. If I'm going to say waffles are the best breakfast, you win. Like again, because you clearly win at waffles. Now we can totally have a lone if block. Basically, if this condition is met or evaluates to true, we'll go ahead and print out the text we want here. If this isn't true, we're just going to keep on going. So we can do like a print down here that says, maybe we'll throw an F string in this one as well and just say, no real judgment. Cool. And then let's go ahead and try calling this a few times. So we'll call breakfast. Let's test out our waffles. WAFF-LES. And then let's do another test on something like pancakes. I think pancakes. Oops. Breakfast. Call with some pancakes. Yum, yum. Let's see what we got here. So, one thing we definitely need to deal with is that, hey, we kind of print that second one no matter what. So if we want to fix that, what we can do is inside our condition here, let's just drop a quick return. This means if we get in our if block, we'll actually just run this and then be done. Let's check that out. Again, that's why we got 2 here. So at the moment, we have a single if condition. Again, it either enters that block or it keeps going. But now if we do enter this block, the return will return out of our function, so we won't see it. Cool. So again, that is a lone if statement, but we can do more. In fact, we can do an if-else, or basically it's got to be one or the other. So an else does not need a condition like the if has. We can also wrap these conditions in parentheses, again, if it's an order of operations thing, but we certainly don't have to, as we see here. So we can turn this print into our else. If it's waffles, we'll get this, but every other time we're going to get the opposite. So now this is really a mutually exclusive conditional. It's got to be one or the other. And we're going to get very similar output because, again, kind of the same functionality, just with different syntax. But again, we're now using an if-else block. If we want to have more conditional checks, we can actually add all the ones we want, but there's special syntax for them, and that is ELIF, which is kind of like combining else with if, and we get ELIF, little shortened version in Python. ELIF is gonna need to have a conditional to evaluate, just like our if block. So here maybe we can do if food equals, I'm gonna go with pancakes because I'm okay with pancakes, but they're not as good as waffles. Do a little F string here again, interpolating that food value. There we go. And at this point, we should add in one more test scenario, just for funsies, but also, well, to test our else block now, because hopefully our pancake invocation will get caught in that brand new ELIF we just added in. So let's do some cereal. And again, these are just my opinions, but hey, we're trying to have a little fun here. First, waffles, again, same scenario. Now when we call pancakes, because we have this extra conditional, it gets caught or evaluated to true here, and we print this. Again, in any one set of if, ELIF, else blocks, there can only resolve to one thing, but we could have just separate ifs throughout as well. That totally does work. Again, with a collection of if, else if, or ELIF, else blocks, we can have all the else ifs we want, or ELIFs, but we can only ever have one if and one else. So I'll do one more. If food, we'll say equals, ooh, this is a good one, bacon. Can't advise just having bacon for breakfast, but boy. Same thing, we can interpolate our value. It's an amazing choice. You also win. Cool. And again, we'll test that out, throwing a breakfast with the string of bacon in there. Yum, yum. No, don't need that colon. And let's give it a run. And look at that. We are catching each one of these scenarios, basically choosing or judging our breakfast choices. Again, a fun little function just to practice and learn about our conditional logic. This is going to be super, super valuable going forward in a lot of the other lessons and games potentially we make. One thing to really quickly note is Python has function scoping. So any variable that is declared in the breakfast function, even if it's in one of these blocks, it would not create a new scope. Again, Python is different than a language like JavaScript, where each one of these conditional blocks would be a brand new scope. Python's function scope, so the entirety of the function has scope, and then outside of it is a separate scope. Just a brief little aside that, again, is potentially going to be important at some point. I hope you enjoyed this video lecture on conditionals in Python. Again, like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel for more Python coding videos. Till next time, happy programming.